Hey, and thanks for tuning in to German Chocolate, Life of a Mixed Girl in season 1 of The Experts That I Know. Today I have a friend, that's why the experts that I know here. Her name is Megan Urbano. She is a speech language pathologist at USF Health. It's pretty cool. At the Voice Clinic. And who does, if you don't know what USF is, it's the University of South Florida. And she is also classically trained as an opera singer and spent some time in Italy, which is pretty cool. And she offers an array of vocal services, voiceover, obviously. Well, maybe not obviously, but yeah. And singing lessons, vocal exploration for actors. And she also gives lectures, if you'd like her to come, on vocal health for performers. She has also given a lecture at Real Voice LA, which is a place I like to train myself. I love Real Voice LA. And she is originally from New York, but very fun fact, grew up in Reno, Nevada. Every time I hear Reno, I got to think of the show. It always sounds so fun.
Yep, that's where people's brains go.
Yep, immediately. And now she lives in Tampa and is part of a choir that sang the national anthem at the Bucks game this past season. And when I was like, I'm going to tell people that, she's like, actually, something really other cool thing happened. She found out this week, well, when you listen to this, it already passed, that she's going to be singing in a video game concert in the Strats in Tampa. And it's going to have a couple of solos there. So I definitely want to snag myself a ticket. Happens to be my son's birthday, but we'll make it work. And she knows a bit of German, so it's very fun. So herzlich willkommen, Megan.
Oh, danke schön. I will end my German there.
Yeah, it was so fun when I found out. And then one of your friends, when we were hanging out, that speaks German too, how crazy out of all the languages.
Yeah, I mean, as an opera singer, I had to learn Italian, French, and German, but German was always my favorite. So me and you, we need to practice a little bit more together so I can get back my German chops.
You got to say that again, because I think a lot of people can't believe that out of all the languages, especially a wonderful language like Italian, oh, bene, bene, that you prefer
I just
German.
love German the most. Let's talk about you and the German, because it's such a beautiful language, and I think it gets a bad rap because it's always in movies as kind of an aggressive language, but actually, like all the achs, ichs, they're very gentle, kind of what we call sibilant sounds for a fancy speech pathology term there. And they're just gorgeous. So, and it's pretty much English. English is a Germanic language. So if you know English, I bet you can learn German.
Yeah, that's what I remember when I went to school. The first degree that I got upon recommendation of a guidance counselor that says if you're bilingual, you must be good at languages, which that is not necessarily true. I learned the hard way. And tons of $1,000s later, thank you, Mom, for my education. When I tried to learn Spanish. She was like, if you know English and any kind of Latin-y language and German, then you can learn any language because they're all like in that field. So yeah, you're definitely all set up for that. So people might be wondering, how do we know each other? And you might think, because you live in Tampa, but not quite. We met in, what was last year, 2023 at VO Atlanta. And we just happened to be like, hey, what's up? Where are you from? And I was like, I live in the Tampa Bay area. You like, shut up, or something like that. Or it was me.
Yeah. No, I can't. I think we were just, somehow we ended up in a group of people who were talking, right? And I had just moved to Tampa about 4 months before VO Atlanta. And so I was really excited because I had just moved from LA and, I was feeling like, oh my gosh, I just moved across the country, really nervous about everything. And so I met up with some of my friends at VO Atlanta. And then when I heard that you were from Tampa, I'm like, oh, she's going to be my friend. I just know it. I'm gonna make her my friend.
I'm getting all the Floridians involved. I have another Floridian and another one that's gonna come. I got another girl from Miami that's gonna be on, so it's gonna be fun.
I think a lot of people are working in Florida, right? We have Miami and Orlando and Disney, obviously, right? But it's such a big state that no one's really as connected. Versus, I think in California, people are really San Francisco and LA. In New York City. But I think there are all these pockets around Florida where people are working as voice actors, are working as voice professionals. And we just don't think about it because we don't have the same kind of cohesive community as some of the other states and cities do.
Which is why most of us travel. Like, someone was asking on TikTok, hey, why do you go to, not me, but I saw it somewhere and I would answer it in the comments. Why do people go to the conferences? Is it like to learn? It's like, yeah, to learn too. But I really like the networking aspect, mostly with the people like that are in our community, because we don't really get that. We're all on social media. We follow each other. But it's
We're
nice.
all in our booths.
Yeah.
Right? We're a little...
So I'm excited because when my other guest from Miami comes in, I also met her out of state. And we were talking about what it's like being a Southeast voice actor, because it's totally different, because East Coast, like you said, you have New York, and then maybe also Atlanta if we're talking about regular acting, on camera acting, regular acting. But then we're down here in this little pocket where people joke about, if you go to Florida, you need a passport.
Yeah. No, totally.
So it was so cool for me as well to know that someone's closer in this area, because I'm obviously also not from here. So it's really nice. And Megan also came to my birthday last year, because I celebrate my birthday at the Oktoberfest in Tampa. It's become like a thing. And so that was so sweet that you guys came.
That was fun. I got to learn more about your heritage there too. You told me like the real Oktoberfest, and got to meet some of your family, and it was beautiful to connect with you. I was really glad that we got to meet out of state, and now we have this relationship here. So thank you so much for having me.
So people might be like, all right, that's all nice and good. Now we know where you know each other from. But if somebody doesn't know, what would you say a speech pathologist does? Like, what is a speech pathologist?
Yes. So that's a great question. So a speech pathologist, most people think of as somebody who works on articulation, on speech, obviously, right? So if you can't pronounce your T's or your S's, or you have a lisp, right? That's pretty much where we start to think of speech pathology. And that is pretty much the biggest area that we treat. However, we treat everything, I like to say, from the top of the head, bottom of the neck. Okay, so everything that goes on in your brain that actually creates language, so it's actually speech language pathology, and that helps your muscles articulate, enunciate. But then for me, I treat voice. So we can treat anything from strokes to, again, speech, to developmental disorders or delays, autism spectrum, right, communication, swallowing disorders as well, when someone has difficulty swallowing, because that's in the neck and the throat.
Oh, that's so interesting, because you would think of like the HNO. Well, that's probably the German word. Now that I'm thinking about ear, nose, throat, ENT.
Yes, ENT, exactly. So, but that's exactly it. ENT, if you don't know, that's an ear, nose, throat doctor. And now what I am, a voice specialized speech pathologist, I only treat voice. So I treat those little vocal folds, also people know them as vocal cords, either term is fine, that create the sound. And they're two little muscles that are shaped like a V in your throat, and they clap, they kind of come together, and every time they come together, they make a sound wave, just like you would do if you were clapping. And so whenever there is an issue with the vocal folds specifically, which can be something like nodules, if you've seen Pitch Perfect, or some kind of trauma, let's say from intubation or being sick or coughing too much, I treat all of those things. And at USF Voice Center, we actually work in a multidisciplinary clinic. So this is really special and pretty unique across the country, where you have a clinic where the patients all see me, a voice specialized speech pathologist, sometimes I call myself a voice therapist, and then the laryngologist. And a laryngologist is an ENT who specializes in the T of ENT, so just the throat part. So they are an ENT who's done extra training, an extra year of fellowship residency in surgical management, medical management of the voice and the throat very specifically. And so that really gives our patients a lot of benefit, because if they're having a voice problem, they see medical surgical side and therapeutic side simultaneously. So then they don't have to go to their doctor, and then they send them to a speech pathologist across the city, right? And then you're back and forth.
Typical thing.
We're always seeing patients. Yeah, and that's tiring. We call that ping pong healthcare.
I'm in the healthcare field too, so I know. But yes. I'm curious, because I think when I first met you, were like, "Oh my God, we have these like Fridays that are like the free like vocal checkup or something. I need to come to one of those again. Do you guys have any of the, well, again, I haven't been able to come because I work a 9 to 5, but do you have that every Friday or is that like a special thing?
That's a special thing. That is for World Voice Day, which actually it was just 2 days ago at the time of recording this. So we just did it on April 12th. World Voice Day is an international holiday to celebrate the voice, and that's always on April 16th. If you join our Instagram, we're always promoting it around kind of March, April, and we always have a day where we open up our clinic. We open up 24 slots for voice screenings where people can actually look at their vocal folds, ask me and the doctor some questions. And I love recommending that even if you're not having a voice problem, as just someone who uses your voice to get a good baseline recording and video of your instrument.
I definitely want to see. I wish I had kind of like, I almost want to call it like pre-morbid because I'm sure there is some strain because before I started working in the medical field that I have my day job in mental, that's not really mental health. I do neuropsych testing. But I speak all day long. And before that, I was working remote just on the computer and just for like meetings I was speaking. But now at the end of the day, wow. I can sometimes tell it's so exhausting.
It is. Some of the biggest groups of people that we work with are singers, right? I call them vocal athletes. So someone who uses their voice in this really high intensity kind of way. So singers, voice actors, some of our biggest, but then teachers, right? Teachers, especially our teachers who are teaching the younger classes and trying to wrangle a bunch of little kids, right? Elementary school especially. Lawyers, I see a lot of lawyers on my caseload, as well as people in healthcare, I would say, are on that kind of top 10 list because you're talking to patients all day, every day. And we saw with COVID, using masks and everything really fatigued people's voices because then you were talking all day, but then also having to project this extra level. And we noticed that a lot of people were, instead of projecting their voice in a healthy way, we're really pushing their voices out, right? And using a lot of strain to get there. Not to say that you did, but I mean, even I felt that at the time.
Yeah. So what do you say is like the easiest fix for somebody who does use their voice every day or who maybe is starting out, now training more with their voice because they want to become a singer or a voice actor or started like a easy thing that can just help the vocal cords?
Yeah. Oh, beautiful question. So one of my favorite ones, which might not be great for if you're just listening audio right now, but is using a straw and some water.
I've seen this.
Yeah, this is called straw phonation. We actually have tons of research on this. So you can go to YouTube and look up straw phonation. You'll see singers, actors, everybody doing it. I have a cup next to me right now, so I can show you a little bit. So you can do a little warm up, just blowing bubbles, and I love that. I joke that's the biggest part of my job is I get to blow bubbles with patients.
Well, that's funny that you say that because the first time I've seen this when I was an actress in theater in Germany. One of the actresses in the third season that I was in, she was a speech language pathologist.
Oh, very cool.
And she did the same thing. She's like, okay, let's all like her and the male lead in that season, they were like blowing the bubbles into I was like, I've never seen that before. I just used a straw for like humming and things. So what is the difference if I like just used a straw with the air also for, building all of this here, the difference between the water and just air when you're using the straw?
So you could just use a straw by itself. They're both great. The water adds an extra level of resistance, which does not mean that you should be pushing to make bubbles. It actually means that you're creating kind of a dam effect in your mouth. So, right, the air doesn't have as much space to go because you're puckered and then it has to kind of push through water. And so what happens is that you get to save that air inside of your body, that air from your lungs, right? If your mouth is open, you just go,
yep.
Right? It's very quick to get out. So we call these exercises semi-occluded vocal tract exercises, semi-occluded. So you're occluding the front. which means the air gets to stay in your lungs. And I call air the gas in the tank, right? We can't speak, sing, act, live without our air. And because you kind of keep some of that air in, since it can't all rush out through that narrow straw, your vocal folds work less hard. Right? So
That
it's
makes
like you have
sense.
all this reserve inside your body. So it's a nice way to warm up because it's actually relaxing the vocal folds. I also highly recommend, which I think a lot of people don't do, is cooling down after you're done using your voice. And that's really, really important. Yeah, so
Like
just doing
stretching your
5 minutes.
body in that sense after a workout.
Exactly. Literally exactly like that. And I tell my patients the exact same thing. And we actually have done research on this. If you were to use your voice a whole lot, let's say you have your 3-4 hour session of voice recording, and then you just stop. We've seen the next day there's more inflammation on your vocal folds than if you were to do like a 5-minute little cool down, little straw exercises. You can do a lip trill. You could even just do a gentle,
So basically similar to your warm up. So it's kind of warm up, go up, and then you use kind of the same to come back down.
Yeah, actually on my cool down, I always just like to go down personally. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da da da.
That makes sense.
Just continue going down the scale. Just to bring everything down. Because often when we are using our voices a lot, we start to get more tight. Our muscles are working. Remember, they are muscles. And so your pitch of your voice might be a little higher when you're done using it very exuberantly.
That makes
because
sense.
you're really tight and strained. So, yeah.
Actually, I went to see a vocal coach and just to work on singing again because it's just been a while. So I know all my breathing exercises, but you know how you are. Like sometimes you just need somebody. And it's the first thing she said, and I was like, that's kind of weird. And I told you too when I met you, she's like, the way you speak, it's really unhealthy for your vocal cords. Like it's like so low. I'm speaking from down here, so it strains my voice more. I'm not sure if you even have an answer to that, but when you were explaining, you said it's kind of a V and it claps together. What makes someone's voice when they first start speaking be more on the higher note or the lower note? Because that doesn't mean that I'm a mezzo soprano or alto just because I speak that way. Do you know, like, is it what creates, the fact
That's
that...
a great question. Let me see if I'm going to answer correctly because I'm not sure I get your question just yet. But so all of our vocal folds are slightly different lengths, right? And the shape of our head, the shape of our body all impacts what our natural, what we call fundamental frequency is going to be. So I talk here, where you've heard me talking all this time, ooh, which is like about at an A on the keyboard, right under middle C. And actually that's a little bit lower on the range of where females talk. But I'm a high soprano. So sometimes...
That's a good example.
Yeah, so sometimes they don't really correlate completely. However, like let's say I'm really like talking in vocal fry all the time. That also is not bad for your vocal folds, but it could mean if you're unable to get out of it and you notice your voice getting tired after you've been speaking in that voice a long time, that you're using very little air. And so your vocal folds aren't working as well. And they're just kind of like floppy. And so they're just not working as efficiently as possible.
I think I have floppy vocal cords because sometimes I'm like the VO instruction on the audition would be like no vocal fry, and I was like I'm gonna try, just kind of go up a pitch maybe a little bit, and then I'm like still sneaking
that
it.
was really nice. Yeah, that was really, really nice. Just doing that. So sometimes just thinking of I'm gonna have a clearer voice actually gets us to that clearer voice, right? So do you want to try something with me real quick?
Ooh, yes.
Okay, great. So this is one of my favorite exercises to do with my patients as well. I want you to say, mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. And I heard the first part was really clear. Mm-hmm. And then we kind of dropped into that vocal fry.
Yep.
Right? So this time I want you to do it again, even slower, and focus on the vibrations at your lips. Mm-hmm. And try to keep that vibration going.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
No vocal fry.
Hero, that's perfectly clear. Yes. Okay, so now we're going to go, my. You're going to chant that.
My.
Beautiful. My mom makes money.
My mom makes money.
Good. Now we want to Or add the M, a little bit elongated, but we're trying to kind of sing-song speak the rest of it. My mom makes money.
My mom makes money.
Good. My name is Jess.
My name is Jess.
Very nice. So how did that sound to you? Was that clearer?
It did. I think if I'm switching into it now, if I speak from up here, I don't feel like I sound like myself, but it sounds clearer. So I feel when I do it inauthentic, but it might just be because I'm not used to it.
I love that you said that. I love that you said that. So here is a big, I think, barrier, kind of mental barrier to people coming to see me for voice therapy. And often it's because they've seen another speech pathologist that has said, you need to talk this way. And I am 100% against that. There is no one perfect voice. But my goal is to help create an efficient voice, a voice that doesn't fatigue, a voice that's dynamic, and that is your choice, right? So here's a food for thought, right? And we use this technique in voice acting all the time. How do you sound when you're excited, right? I might be really excited and I'm talking up here, and like my voice keeps going up and I'm just like so loud and like pumped about things, right? Or like if you're really just pissed at someone, right? And you just cannot stand them and maybe you're seething about something, right? Or maybe you're just tired, right? You're just tired and you just don't want to be here. And so your voice kind of comes down here, right?
Yeah.
So emotionally, we have such a huge range as human beings. And this voice that I'm using for the podcast right now, actually, I would say is my therapy voice. Okay? It's like it's like my extra clear voice. It's kind of the voice I use during teaching. But I feel like when I'm just like talking on the couch with my fiance, I'm pretty much like here. I'm like a little bit lower. I'm kind of in vocal fry.
It sounds very conversational, commercial, kind of.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Right. So I think that we have tons of voices. And so when a patient might say, well, this doesn't sound like me, I'm like, you have so many options to play with, right?
Yeah.
So this might be just a choice you can use when you're at work, right? Because I can't be talking like this for 8 hours a day with all my patients.
That's
I'm
me.
going to get tired. So it actually took me like 3 months, honestly, of like really consciously like putting sticky notes on my laptop whenever, especially, seeing people virtually for telehealth and reminding, okay, talk quieter, talk smoother, use more flow, because my voice was getting so tired when I became a speech pathologist 3-4 years ago, because I was just using my regular speaking voice. And so I wasn't a good model for my patients and it was fatiguing. So it's knowing like, okay, what is your goal for voice therapy? And a lot of times people are coming in and they're like, oh, well, I can't teach, right? Like I love teaching, but like I'm losing my voice and now my kids can't hear me and that's making me push more. So it's like, okay, this might feel a little inauthentic, but is it going to get you to that functional place where you keep your job and you're happy at your job and you're not feeling pain?
So you're saying when I change my voice up into like this area that sounds kind of more like this, I don't have to up and move, get a new job. So that's my new identity. I can just embrace it.
Yeah, exactly. And we talk differently, right? If I'm talking to a patient, I might be here, right? But if I'm talking to like my cat, I'm like, oh my God, my baby, right?
Yeah.
So it's also called code switching. So it depends how we, move through that. And then as I start to work with patients, we do start to adjust that voice over time. It's like, okay, I like the clarity, but it's a little too high. Let's bring it down, but try to keep the clarity. Maybe we need to change the pace of it, right? Maybe we need to add a few more accents, a little more lilt to the voice. So really, that's actually how I got into voice acting, to be honest with you, is I started doing all of these. I had wanted to do it for a long time, but I started doing all of these things with my patients. And the more I worked, the more I was like, oh, I'm kind of good at breaking voice down and switching how it sounds based on these things, right? And that made it so interesting and fun for me.
Yeah, I'm curious because earlier you were like, okay, you're up here and it's kind of like an A. How would you say did, being a trained opera singer benefit you in now being a speech language pathologist in that sense? Was there more overlap than you would have thought, or did that side actually enhance what you do?
Oh, great question. I really feel that So let me back up. When I was a singer, I still am a singer. I don't know what I'm saying. When I was actually in music school, I guess doing every single day, right? I'd always been interested in the science of the voice. I'm very much like a how does that work kind of a person. I want to know how things work to the cellular level sometimes.
I get that.
And so, my voice teacher actually had her degree in voice science, not in speech pathology, but in voice science. And so she taught our course on that. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And I was actually only going to take a few classes in speech pathology on the side as like, ooh, let me learn a bit more about the science. And then I just fell in love with it. So I ended up getting my second degree in that and then doing my master's and, everything. But I think the love for voice really inspired me to do it. I think that there is a lot of carryover in terms of the emotion of it all.
Oh, that's beautiful, yeah.
In terms of communicating a story, right? And understanding just how much voice is this, this blank wall of like who you are. It's showing yourself to everybody around you, to the world. And you have this wall, but your voice like paints the picture on it.
Yeah.
Right? It is how people interpret you, how you want to be interpreted to the world. And, it's really, I also work with gender affirming voice. So patients who are transgender or non-binary and are transitioning and finding a voice that works for them. And I think in our field, specifically, we're like, oh, right, we really narrow in on voice being part of identity, but it's part of identity for every single person.
That makes sense. I mean, I must say for voice acting, I love being able to play around with it. It's so gender fluid because of it's not just the pitch, but there's so much goes to it. I had a coach, she was telling me when I do the boy voices, I have to make sure that the S's don't hit so hard because as women, we like to hit the S's really hard. So it goes so much into the anatomy of more than just, oh, now I have a deeper voice. So now I sound like a boy. No, because maybe it kind of goes more from back here, but how old is that person now? There's
exactly
when you're little, you speak from here and some nasal and then it kind of just goes and it's like what you said, I'm a total nerd too. So I love that you're like a beautiful, creative nerd because I I always ask so many why questions. I feel like a 5-year-old half the time. Like at my job, the neuropsychologist that I work with, I'm always like, why? I was like, I know I'm keeping you on your toes. Like all your med school knowledge is not getting lost on me.
Exactly. Yeah. You're pushing people too. I think it's a good thing. It's so funny though, when like people are kind of hesitant to, I think, change their voice because they're like, I'm changing my identity. Now, I often see patients, right, who have a voice problem coming into therapy. Obviously, that's why I'm seeing them. So my rebuttal for that also is, well, you don't sound like yourself right now.
Oh,
right?
You don't know me.
You don't know me. Well, you wouldn't have come to us, right? You wouldn't have come to us if you weren't like, oh, there's something wrong with my voice. Doesn't feel right. Doesn't sound right, etc. So I'm like, well, you don't sound like yourself right now. So let's unlock a little bit of flexibility. And I actually got this from one of my mentors, but she always used to say, voice is like a soup.
Oh.
So she was like, you could throw in a little sauce, you could put in some more carrots, maybe you want to put like pork or you want to put beef, whatever it is in there. And so it's like, you're choosing your ingredients for your voice and you get to play around with that whenever you want. So
that's funny that you said that. So you had that teacher. When you meet someone, we all, like the people that are in the creative field already know, if you're like, oh, I'm a voice actor, then we already know the number one question, do a voice or, that's like one thing. Yeah. And as a singer, who can you sing something for me or who do you sing like? But if you tell people that you're an SPL or SLP, speech language SLP. I'm not dyslexic, I promise. I'm getting all my letters mixed up.
No one knows what we do. That's why we're here learning about it.
So when you tell people that that's what you are, what is there like also a typical thing that people ask, hey, so show me this, or what is it that you do? Or is there something that they expect?
Oh, yeah. I mean, usually people are like, oh, so you work with kids. right? And sometimes, honestly, I'd just be like, yeah, if I'm in an Uber, I'm like, yeah. But no, it's the fact that we do work with people across the entire age range, from actually newborns, who you'll have speech pathologists in the hospital working on swallowing. If they're having a swallowing issue or they can't latch, they'll work with the other specialties that help with that, all the way to, geriatric and end-of-life care, helping with swallowing and some of the breathing, the trach and ventilator care.
That's like the circle of life. If you think at the beginning swallowing and at the end the swallowing, and then we're somewhere in between figuring ourselves out and trying to navigate.
Exactly. And with the strokes, we also work on cognition, because usually, some of those areas of the brain that are tied to language are also connected to how we understand the information that we're being given. So we also help with the person's, ability to break down receptive language.
That's funny how your and my work has so much in common, because when I test people, we test them the cognitive function, executive function, focus, attention, and then obviously autism, Alzheimer's, dementia, ADHD, all of those things. And so many things that you said, it's like, people go to their doctor, then they're like, let's get some neuropsych testing, and then that's done. And then the doctor, the neuropsych doctor, would then recommend things like what you just said. Actually, he does recommend people, now that I think about it. I've heard it several times when I'm like, hey, so what did you end up recommending? Well, some speech therapy. I was like, yeah. So
and then
we go together.
We always have patients who are like, well, there's nothing wrong with my speech. I'm like, well... So it's a little bit of I don't know what that term could be, but we need a new term, I think, for our field in general.
So we are at the end of this, but since you've said earlier how important it is that we cool down, maybe we should cool down together. Would you like to cool us down?
Oh, I love it. Okay, great. So let's do a nice lip trill. Good, and we'll do a little 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And if we're doing it longer, we go all the way down. But let's do just one long sigh, descending. And then I like to let my voice just settle, especially after a long session. I'll stop talking at that point. Just let it be relaxed.
Relax. Wonderful. That's so easy. Just like you need to take the time to stretch after working out. Remember, if you don't remember anything else from what we talked about today, take it easy. Make sure you relax. Drink water,
yes.
Right? Drink water.
Hydrate.
So, thank you. We should do this again. Learn some more. See if any questions come up. If you do have any questions, if you're on Spotify, you can use the Q&A section. If you see our clip right here on any of the socials, you can leave a comment or just find us, because I will drop all of your socials, but you can just let the people know too if they want to find you. Where would they find you?
Sure. I'm on Instagram at Megan the Singing SLP. Megan the Singing SLP, and on Twitter at Megan Urbano VO.
Nice, beautiful. Get that in right here too. And yeah, it was so nice to learn some more about my voice.
Thank you so much.
And that I'm not broken.
No, you are lovely and perfect.
Well, thank you, and catch you on the next episode.